Hi, I'm Shana Meyerson with the Yoga of War podcast, here today with IDF Sergeant Major Chaim Malespin. If you appreciate and find value in these important discussions, please consider supporting the show so I can continue to bring you such amazing and esteemed guests. Details are pinned in the comments below. The Israel-Hamas War is now in day 628. Certainly, you've heard about Israel Defense Force reservists who have served 300 days of active duty. IDF Sergeant Major Chaim Malespin just completed 628. That means for 628 consecutive days, Chaim has voluntarily put his family, his business, his life, and his personal safety on the back burner in order to defend his country. It's a kind of patriotic commitment that is hard to comprehend in most of the world, but not in Israel. Israel is more than a country. Israel is a family, and family always stand together. Chaim Malespin is the chairman of the board of the Aliyah Return Center and the host of the Real Israel podcast. A faithful Jew, Chaim dedicates all aspects of his life to helping the Jewish state and the Jewish people to thrive, and his dedication knows no bounds. While in the IDF, he served in the elite combat engineering corps, and now as a sergeant major in the reserves, he continues to serve with passionate and unrivaled dedication. His leadership has drawn global recognition, hosting dignitaries such as the US Vice President and meeting with world leaders to build bridges between Jews and Christians. Chaim, thank you last week for the update from the front lines, and thank you for returning this week to talk more about who you are and what drives you. It was literally what drives you today.
Yeah, literally, I'm so honored. I'll just say I'm so honored by your work, because you bring people together, and that word family, mishpacha, how do they say it in Yiddish? Mishpocha. In Yiddish. It's just beautiful, and there's no better times than devastating trauma to really know what you're made of. Everyone can be friendly when it's fair weather, sunny days, and everything's all roses. You don't know what the person's made of until you have a crisis. Then you know what the country's made of the people that are in it, how they respond. I was saying some people, when in some countries, if you have like a rocket hit a house or an earthquake, you might have people going in trying to rob the person to see if, can I find a cell phone? Here, you have people rushing to the scene to help, to give, cooking, giving them gift vouchers. That's what we're doing. The gift supermarket little, gift card. And then they can go and get diapers and milk formula and food and whatever. And just the country comes around you, because it's a bunch of tribes. It is a family of Israel. The very same one, if Candace Owens is listening to this, or Tucker Carlson, or any of those guys are listening, the very same one as the Bible. The very same people as the Bible, okay?
Sure. And that couldn't be emphasized more. I mean, think about on October 7th, wherein usually when a war begins in a country, the people flood out. Like, how do we get away from this? In Israel, all the people who were abroad were like, how do I get back in? My sister was one of them. She was here for the high holy days, and she flew back on October 7th, because they were about to cancel all the flights. She got the last El Al flight out. But 150% call up for the reserves. I mean, this is Israel. It's definitely a very, very unique country. And even now, in the middle of the Iran war, all the Israelis saying, how do I get back? How do I get back? You just don't see this in most countries.
And thank you for that really, really nice introduction about me and just the consecutive days, 628 that I've been serving, and consecutively. And it's not just me. I mean, I'm one soldier, but there are others who give everything. I mean, their life and limb. And it pains me to say that from my very combat engineer corps unit, 7 of our guys fell in battle today, this morning. And yesterday when we were talking, I was there at the site of the of this missile that hit Beersheba. I was there in the rubble and just and saying, "Wow, how these people are without homes? How are we living in such intense times?" And as I'm speaking, there's drones being shot from Yemen. So it's not as over as people get this picture in their mind, like, well,
Exactly.
Trump helped broker a fragile ceasefire, so we're all golden. Well, no, Hezbollah is still trying to rearm. Hamas just killed 7 of our guys with a magnet bomb that's on the side of their transport, and then of course the Houthis. It would seem that we do our best to deter the enemy, but they are of a ideology that is it's different than Hitler, where Hitler, when he was gone, and they said, well, let's just choose a different way of life now. There, it's more of kind of like Allah told me to kill Jews. That's kind of their perspective. So that's a little bit different than the Nazi drive. Still the same. It's still the same goal, but just a different kind of starting point.
Yeah. The news yesterday of the 7 soldiers that were killed in this roadside bomb. It sounds like 2 others with RPG, not killed, but severely wounded. It reminds us, because in a militarily naive country like America, you hear the word ceasefire and it's like, I'm done. And it's nothing like that. Among other things, we need to see, hopefully, that this is finally the time that Trump stops negotiating and starts dictating terms, because among other things, we need Iran, obviously the nuclear program, to end. We need the ICBM program to end. We need them to stop funding the proxies. Of course, the question is going to be who's going to step in and take their place. And we also, of course, we need to get the hostages home. All of these things go together. Like, so yes, Israel is not right now sending missiles dropping bombs to Iran. Iran is not sending missiles, but that is like the tip of the proverbial nuclear iceberg.
True.
So
Yeah.
yeah, go.
I would just go and say that it's the same thing when you see on the flag of the Houthis. They're a terrorist group that's occupying Yemen, right? So it says "Death to America, Death to Israel" on their flag. I don't know how many,
Yeah.
because people don't read Arabic. They can't see this flag that they're waving says "Death to America, Death to Israel." Where did they get that from? From their bosses in Iran, who told them to keep firing. By the way, right now, maybe Iran is on a ceasefire, but all their proxies, all their kids are still commanded to fire. They tried to tell Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, they told him, attack Israel now. That's what Iran said to Hezbollah. How much firepower do they have? They have a lot still in Hezbollah. Believe it or not, they still have it. Right now, they're trying to do what's called Hudna. Hudna is a jihadist world view. Is if you when Muhammad was unable to attack Mecca and Medina, he signed a fake ceasefire with them, a lie, and he said, "Don't worry, I won't attack you." Kind of like what Hitler said to Russia, "I won't attack you." And then Muhammad turned around and attacked Mecca and Medina when they were unsuspecting, because they thought they had the ceasefire. As soon as he built up enough firepower, then he attacked. So it was just a lie, and they're allowed to lie. It's called tawfiq. Tawfiq is another term which means you're allowed to lie to the infidel. You should lie to the infidels, what they say. So my point is that I think Iran is just doing everything they can in their Hudna state now and the same thing with Hezbollah. But the minute that they're out of the Hudna state, which is a rebuilding time, they will follow their example, the example given them, and attack us again, unless there's a change of the guard, a change of the regime.
Yeah, I mean, the irony, Chaim, when you say that they're allowed to lie, is that they're not just allowed to lie in their own doctrine. Like, the UN allows them to lie, the world body allows them to lie, all of the so-called human rights organizations allow them to lie. This is a playbook that anybody with half a brain already knows. So it's funny, because I see a lot of the the experts on this war, and I'm talking about the real experts. I'm not talking about the comedians who pretend to be experts, but the people, experts who are also on our side, right? But they're sort of new to the war. They just started maybe very recently studying Israel. And they're like, oh, this is the first time that we're seeing this and this in the media. But the fact is, it's like, go back to 2014, the same thing happened. The human shield and the crying and turning it around, the provocation, that this is nothing new. It's in writing, as you're saying, in their doctrine, but it's so repetitive. How are our leaders this naive or willingly ignorant of what's going on? You're frozen.
Very well.
Shoot, Chaim, you're frozen.
Itself. Very well said. I would say that Qatar has more power than we might give them credit for with their finances. They've paid that's
Chaim,
to a PR firm. I don't know the name of it. They law work in the United States to advance narrative when you crisis we have a war of words. And that I'm seeing happen is that they're able to use their power through money to try to shift the narrative to make America look like they're the bad ones, the West look like they're the bad ones, when we're just make Israel look like we're the aggressor when we're doing nothing but defending ourselves. So that's why you said, why is it that some people say what they say? Why is it that some people really just repeat Hamas talking points? Why? Well, they're paid to by Qatar, and even buying up media, twisting the narrative. If they say, if you control the narrative, you control the people. This is a saying, and I see there is some truth to that, because even if I just said Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or others that say Israel's completely illegitimate in its war of self-defense, it's completely in the wrong. Now, some people might say, "Come on, you're you know." I'm not quoting them directly. I'm just saying this type of narrative. People might say, of course, they're trying to defend themselves from a nuclear weapon, but there's always some percentage. Like, I know that Candace Owens did say that soldiers of America should dishonorably discharge themselves from the military. That is so unthinkable for a soldier to do. But I will bet you, some soldiers will listen to her, because she said you should do that before you would fight in Israel's war in the Middle East, which is on foreign soil. So see how she's painting a picture like Israel's dragging America and dragging these soldiers to their death, she said, to their death for a foreign country, instead of, wow, Israel is protecting democracy. Israel's protecting the West. Israel's stopping you should stay in the army and do your part, whether it's in Afghanistan, whether it would be in Iran, wherever it would be, go there as a brave soldier and join with the brave people from Israel or wherever who will fight for freedoms. But she twisted things. That's Candace Owens. I'm very disappointed in her and what she did.
Yeah, I'm actually not talking about these propagandists. We've got mass propagandists, and they have nefarious goals, and it mostly rooted in anti-Semitism and or anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, motivations. I'm talking about the actual leaders of the world that we have seen this. We have not only seen this play out over and over again, but it only takes the tiniest bit of intelligence. And I'm not even now talking about, like, are we smart? Are we not smart? I'm talking about every country has intelligence units. And if you just, like you're saying about a hood nut, like this isn't a secret. Right. This isn't a secret. If you just pay attention, how do we keep letting them get away with the same exact tricks? We provoke Israel. We make them fight back. We know they've got more power. We cry to the world. We'll tell them we're the victims. The world will turn on Israel. We'll chip away, and then we'll cry for a ceasefire. Israel will bend. We'll take hostages. We'll do it again.
I think that's what Hamas was counting on, that they thought we wouldn't go in, I believe. I can't say I know what they were thinking, but I know when they saw the Gilad Shalit, 1,020 terrorist convicted murderers and terrorists to be released for one guy, my brother's friend, Gilad Shalit, who was dragged into a Hamas tunnel. And he probably, Yehia Sinwar and his brother Mohammed Sinwar, probably thought that indeed they probably believed that what would happen is they would be able to release so many of their brothers in arms, terrorists, and that the war would be over. That they would cry for a ceasefire. The world would give them a ceasefire, and no harm done. They would survive any bombings down there. I don't think that they thought it would get this bad or this intense. I don't think so. But what it is we just got to be able to continually stand up for what's right, do what's right, and keep the enemy on the edge, keep the enemy being surprised that we're so determined. Because what you have in the West is professor after professor teaching, generation after generation, that the West is wrong. The West is you can't say that your culture of Judeo-Christian values, the biblical values, that they're in any way better than, let's just say, jihadist values. The Obama letter proved that. The letter from Obama that everyone loved and praised in the West, which is not everyone, but some deranged people. And so you have that principle where you say, wait a minute, why are you praising essentially a jihadist Al-Qaeda leader who bombed the Twin Towers? Why are you praising his letter against the West? Because you're saying, well, he has a perspective. We have a perspective. We can't say ours is better than theirs. I'm saying on this podcast, they're wrong to think that way. The biblical worldview is better. Valuing someone's life, whereas in the Wall of China, it's filled with bodies. Whereas in jihadism, someone you don't like, you feel that you just go and execute them. That isn't. You feel that they've been dishonorable, throw acid on their face. You feel a woman has a little bit of hair showing, kill them, or beat them mercilessly. And no, we don't. We have rules that have developed, which is human life has value, deserves due process in accordance with law. These things are better. They are better, and they are our way, and we're gonna fight for that. And so I'm saying they need to stop teaching that it's all, Go ahead.
Good luck with that. I noticed in the first Obama administration, I remember specifically thinking, like, this is the first president who's apologizing for America, who's saying it's so funny. Like, it's like people are so offended by the concept of make America great again. And I just feel like that this should not be a Republican slogan. This should be an American slogan. And we should all care about our country. But the multiculturalism has created what God Saad refers to, and it's just so perfectly stated, suicidal empathy. That you're right, that Judeo-Christian values are absolutely, unequivocally, black and white, better than jihadi values, than radical Islamic values that simply do not respect life in not their life, not the life of their enemies. I mean, that's the irony, and that's what makes these wars so hard, is that they don't care if they die. And so it's a very hard calculus.
Even just the way we treat our country and value our country and the soldiers of our country. It's not like, well, that's a career you chose to be a soldier. Great, good for you. I'll salute you once a year. And you died. Well, you chose a dangerous job. You do you, I'll do me. No, they are essential to keep you safe. The gun that Chaim has to carry is essential to keep the enemy at bay. There's enemies everywhere, and they're going to come after you if there aren't police, if there aren't military. You will die. You will be die or worse, die or worse. And so people have to understand that as a country, we value the fact that you need borders, because
Yeah.
there's ICE. These ICE protests are like, hey, you don't need borders. You don't need flags. You just need the multicolored flag, or you need a Palestinian flag. I'm like, well, no, you need your national flag, because the world isn't all, we're all equally, there's this feeling that was maybe taught in universities, I don't know, that we're all just children of the world. We all just love one another. And even the word love, let me just say this, the word love and hate, that's even not being taught what love even means. People think that love means you agree with anything I do. Anything I do, you have to agree with if you love me. Hate means, if you hate me, means you disagree with something I said or something I did, means you hate me. That's not true, though. That is an incorrect understanding of what the word love is. If you love someone, you're actually going to say, hey, I know that you just gambled all your money on that gambling machine. I love you, so I'm going to say I disagree with that. No, you hate me. You hate me. No, I love you. That's why I'm telling you, better not to gamble all your money in the casino. You know what I mean? So, but that's the kind of perspective that exists nowadays. It's a twist of even the word love and hate.
Yeah. So I going back to what you were saying about respecting our military, because in America, definitely not a thing. Like definitely not a thing. Besides, the Boy Scouts and the military families themselves, Memorial Day or Veterans Day in America basically means have a barbecue and buy a mattress half price. So I've been to
Right.
Israel on these dates, but because you're Israeli, why don't you explain how does, say, Yom HaZikaron in Israel differ from Memorial Day in America?
Exactly. I would say that here, because it's the People's Army, every single person knows. Well, first of all, as Jewish people, everyone has some trauma in their DNA. Whether it's from the Inquisitions back in the day, the Crusades, the Inquisitions, the pogroms, being kicked out of almost every country in the world. Come on, that is wild. And so then you have the Holocaust to top it all off, and everybody, it's millions and millions of us. There's not that many of us left in Israel, where there's 7 million of us, maybe another 6 million in America, or so, and a few more scattered around the world. We all know someone who died, who was murdered, not died, sorry, who was murdered at the hands of diabolical hate. We all know somebody that knows somebody. Then on top of that, you add a war every couple of years in Israel, and so everybody knows someone now on top of that trauma, someone who was murdered at the hands of Hamas or Hezbollah or a terrorist with the timing. Becomes very personal. Everything becomes extremely personal and extremely deep in our hearts. So even if someone didn't serve in the army, they'd know someone, their sister's friend or their dad's brother or their cousins, somebody in the family that was murdered. So because of that, there's a coming together. There's an identification with, and also that when you grow up, it's your destiny. You're gonna have to honor your ancestors, your ancestors, your father, your grandpa. You're gonna have to do your part. It's the People's Army for girls and boys, young men and women. That is 18 years old, able-bodied. They all have to serve, even if they're typing names in a computer. They're still serving. So that it's waiting for you in a few years, or it's just behind you and you have reserves. So it becomes, the difference is it's you and your blood. It's not somebody else. That's the big difference, to answer you. It's you
No,
and your blood, not somebody else.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because in America, I mean, I could count on one hand how many people I know who have ever served, including my grandfather, in World War II, which was, it was so
Right.
many years ago. But my real question, and again, I could answer this if you want to, but I'd like to just have
Yeah.
you explain. Here in America, on holidays like Memorial Day, we have barbecues and buy, half price things. Tell people what happens in Israel on days like Yom HaZikaron with the sirens, with the whole thing. Like what does that day look like to you? What happens in Israel?
Right. Yeah, I would say so what it is in Israel, Memorial Day, not like the 4th of July, Independence Day. Memorial Day is a real time of going to the graves. There's very sad music on the radio. There's violins playing, and there's all kinds of memorial services. Some of them are done by the mayors, so that's a nice, which means the city center is taken over by screens, and sometimes they'll go all the way back since 1948. They'll show, captives in Syria who were Israelis who were taken and held and tortured in Syria, or other countries. You'll show missions, and that's on the mayor's level. But then you have on the family level where you'll open up the books. It's like when someone dies and you sit Shiva, the 7 days of mourning. So it's not a 7-day. It's a opening up all the pictures. There's Grandpa. There's your cousin Mordechai. There's your friend Yitzchak. Look at that. Remember him? Remember how he'd play cards? He always knew those card tricks. Wow, you remember how funny he was? So we go over that on a personal level, but everybody. And of course, there's the services on the national level at Mount Herzl, which is what Gettysburg would be the equivalent in America. Gettysburg, where all those graves are. So we have Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, and the president will give a speech, and you light the torch. You light the torch to remember those who different people get the honor of lighting the torch that year. Generals or someone who is highly decorated, or the one guy. There's other times people are memorialized, who, like the guy who jumped on a grenade and gave his life because there was nowhere to get away from this exploding, and he decided to give his life to save his whole platoon. And so that's just some stuff that happens in our Memorial Day here in Israel.
Okay, actually, so what I was referring to, I could answer this, because I've been there not just Memorial Day, but for Holocaust Memorial Day, and is that there's a siren that goes off
Yep.
that covers the whole entire country, and what
Yep.
happens is literally the whole entire country. I guess that Chaim, to you, this is so normal. This would be
Yeah.
so abnormal in America that people would have no idea what to do. So.
Right.
This siren goes off, and everybody knows when it's going to go off. It's not like you mistake it for a bomb. And the whole country, meaning every single person, no
Yeah.
matter what they are doing, stops what they're doing. That means if you're driving, everybody pulls over to the side of the freeway, gets out of their car, and stands. I mean, I've been there at a cafe. Everyone stops talking. It doesn't matter. There's business going on. There's people laughing and whatever. Everybody stops, stands, drops their heads, and pays tribute in silence. The whole entire country. Last year, I
That's
was
right.
actually at Kibbutz Be'eri on Yom HaZikaron, which made it that much more intense. But it's funny that that's not the first thing that comes to your mind, because that is the thing, because all those other things, I mean, I'll say our governments do, but people don't do. Like the random
Right.
world are too busy at the beach and eating hot
Right.
dogs. So it's just such a beautiful indication of like how vested Israel is in not just in the military, but understanding that every single child, I shouldn't say every single, obviously, there's exceptions, is going to serve and risk his or her life for
Yeah.
their nation. And
Yeah.
let me ask you, actually, so you moved to Israel when you were 15, which means you didn't grow up knowing you're gonna be in the IDF. And you weren't two, like you were 15, you were just a few years away from this mandatory service. Obviously I know how you feel about that now, but when your parents said, we're going to Israel, you're 15, you're in high school, this means you're going to go into the IDF. I'm just wondering, can you remember at age 15, what did you think about that?
I definitely remember that, and I kind of almost wish I had my full uniform on with all the war pins as I'm talking, so people can imagine me as a sergeant major that I am, just so they know what I've been through and the amount of wars I've been through, the amount of tunnels I've been in Lebanon and Gaza over 20 years of highly decorated, commanding black ops in all kinds of probably the most dangerous terrain on the planet. I would say more than Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, it's tighter, it's they're trained very well. But anyway, not comparing. I just want to say that I've been through a lot in the last 20 years in the Army. But yeah, to imagine before that, I came to Israel over 26 years ago. So to think 26 years ago, and I told you how old I am now. To think 26 years back, uh, it was a moment where when you know that you're facing potentially death, it kind of becomes the top thing in your mind. Combat soldiers here do die. It said 7 today, early this morning, late last night. So, so it's very real here, and everyone knows everyone, and it's a very small. It's not like America where you have so many people. You're like, well, we lost a few soldiers. What, 100? Iran killed IRGC. Iran killed 236 Marines. Was it a few years back in Lebanon? And they're like, well, we lost some Marines, but that is very horrible. Here, it's each person is like your world is over. Okay, so when you think of this as a young boy, you think, well, is there a way to get out of this? There is a way to get out of it. You could say, look, I am not mentally fit. And no one's going to force you if you really say. And there's even jokes that develop of people trying to convince the psychological evaluation, that they're not mentally fit. There's a joke. One guy, not a joke, but one guy, he's carrying around this egg, a rotting egg, like an egg that's gone bad, carrying it around. And then finally, the psych evaluation officer is like, "What's wrong with you? Are you trying to say you're unfit? And so you're crazy? You're carrying around this egg?" He's like, "Why are you carrying around the egg?" He's like, "You want me to show you?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. Why? Want me to show you?" All right. Boom. He throws it on the guy. He throws it on the psych evaluation officer and says, "Pikachu, this Pokemon, come out. Pikachu, where are you? Come on out." So that's just he's just trying to pretend like he's not mentally fit to serve, to get out of it, to get out of his service. But people don't do this, though. They don't do this. It's a joke, but people don't do that. They stay in, they serve. And so I was thinking, would I try to get out of it? Would I try to draft dodge, which means fly to America maybe, and hide out until I'm kind of past the age, and then I won't be prosecuted in some way? Because there is a prosecution, when people are draft dodging. It's mandatory to serve. So I thought about that, and what happened is I met a friend. He's an older friend, and I said, you know what? It is scary. I'll be honest. I'm a 15-year-old kid. It's scary. I look in a few years from now, I'll be serving in the Army. And what do you think? And he says, what do I think? He says, look, not only would you be, if you draft dodged, you would be spitting on your ancestors here. I'm talking back to the Bible times. What about if King David would have wanted to draft dodge? Okay, but never mind them for a second. You're spitting on me. I served, and who are you to not do your part in the timeline of Israel, the timeline of history? Who are you not to not do your part because you're scared? You think I wasn't scared? Did I have the privilege? If we all start chickening out, if we try to, then the country will be no more. There will be no more country to protect. You have to do your part in the legacy of Israel, in the timeline of this country. It's a relay race, and the torch is passed to you. You don't drop that baton, son. You don't drop that. You'll also be looked at as that. You'll be looked at throughout your life as someone who shirked their duty when it was their responsibility. And he said, you know what? One more thing. I don't want to talk too long about this, but one more thing. There are some people, it's rare. There's some people who do that. And you know what? When they apply for a job, when they bring it up in any Shabbat dinner, hey, how was your Army service? You're going to have to say, I was one who shirked my duties. So there's a shame in that too. And so I said, you know what? God's going to watch over me. and I choose to not fear. I choose to jump in there and do it. And you know what? Here I am to this day, after much fighting on multiple fronts, and I'm fine.
How many wars and conflicts have you served to date? I actually, Chaim, I have a question. When you served as long as you have, and knowing that you're like, let's say, particularly familiar with the terrain in Gaza, are they going to always send you to Gaza as opposed to, Lebanon or the Syrian border because you know that terrain, you know that area?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. As a elite unit, all elite units, whether it's the Navy, the Rangers, or the Navy SEALs, or for us it's called Shayetet 13, or Maglan, or Shaldag, or Yahalom. There's only a few very elite units that are the top of the top of, and some people might say I'm from an elite unit, but there are only a few that are actually trained. And those ones that are trained, you call them up and you say, we're flying you into Iran to, let's just say hypothetically that America didn't help. I'm so thankful that America did do that, bring those B-2 bombers to get the deep part of the, but if they didn't, and we had no ability to do it, do you think we're going to give up? No, we're going to have to parachute in there and carry the explosives down there and plant them on the centrifuges by hand, is what I would have to do. So no, they wouldn't just keep me in Gaza. They'd say, we need you in Lebanon. There I was in Lebanon. We need you in Syria. My guys are in Syria right now. We need you to fly in a black op into Iraq and take out a reactor, whatever. You will have to do it, and we're trained on. Like, that's the difference between elite unit soldiers and regular soldiers. Regular soldiers is kind of what you're thinking of. Maybe are stationed. You are to protect the Egyptian border. Park your tanker. People, if you infiltrate, go and apprehend them. Go and find out what's going on. You are guarding this border, and that's it. You're doing it for 3 months, and then you're home. You'll be home for your regila. So that is a different thing than me.
Okay.
All elite unit soldiers are like what I described.
Okay, cool. So let's
What I am.
I can't believe we're 35 minutes in and we haven't even gotten to October 7th. Let's fast forward. So you at 15 did come to terms with the fact that you were going to be a proud soldier. You served for decades, and then October 7th comes. Obviously, you're in the reserves, which means you're not in active duty. I'm really trying to understand, as is everybody, what happened that day. There were a lot of balls dropped, but I don't know that it could have been any different when we're talking about such a massive and surprise attack. So I'm curious, Chaim, when you responded. So October 7th, I want you to sort of give me literally a timeline, but in a minute, like literally at such and such a time, this is what happened. But I'm wondering, what did the deployment look like? Like, were there already protocols in place to respond in the case of such an unexpected atrocity? Or was it like a scramble to like quickly figure out and plan and deploy and strategize? And so from your perspective as a sergeant major in the reserves, 6:30 a.m. comes. How does your day unfold? And what did that look like for the IDF, or for your unit at least?
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, it's a big answer, and I know we won't have time to go into the full thing because I guess we have to wrap up in a couple minutes here. But so what I'll do is summarize it as best I can. Is there are definitely emergency protocols that exist. There's emergency warehouses. There's emergency, drills if Hezbollah attacks, if you have an invasion from Judea and Samaria, if you have an attack from Syria. What do? How do you make sure to respond? But like you said, there were so many mess ups, so many compounding of mess ups. And I would start to say that we weren't like we are today. Imagine if the attack happened today. where everyone's on, they're in, they have their gun, they know where to report to, they know what their division is, they know today we're in a completely whole new world. But let's just say that you got to know that time we weren't like this. It was almost like below zero, although there's protocols. Again, there are protocols. It's almost like let's just say you say, if you're on a boat and it starts to sink, protocols are, there's the bucket, start to bail out the water, and then every 3 minutes, pass the bucket to someone else so one person doesn't get tired. There's a protocol there, okay? But then what happened is everybody's asleep in the boat. That's literally only way I can describe it. Everyone's asleep in the boat. The water, you start to sink, and everyone's finally wakes up after the water's half up here in the boat, in your rowboat, and suddenly you're like, what do we do? I guess Jerry's just gonna start dumping, and you start rowing in a circle. You're just spinning in a circle now with some guy grabbing an oar. That's what it felt like. And Israel's not like that as an army. So we haven't even seen the what's called the governmental full research of why. I mean, there was one commander that was out camping. He's supposed to be on guard, a commander of a bunch of soldiers out camping. The Hamas blew out all of our, just went in and massacred, shot the cameras, just cut the electricity, cut the, like a super op. They were so prepared. They trained for years of exactly where to go. They drove to the police headquarters of Sderot. They knew exactly where to go. They weren't aimlessly wandering. They were on top of it. They went to the mayor's house. But he had moved 7 years ago. So their information was a little bit outdated. But they drove to the mayor of Sderot's house to try to kill him. How do they know exactly where he used to live 7 years ago? They were on it. I don't think they really counted on. Well, either way, what it was for us, we got the call right away. It says, it's war, report. But
what time is that? What time was that? What time? And also people actually, I want to, if I could step back one thing, it was not only Simchas Torah, it was also Shabbat. Now, here's the thing. From what I understand, the IDF is always going to be a skeleton crew on, it's not a high holy day, but it's a very holy day, okay? And it's a Shabbat, so it was compounded. I'm thinking about all the literally hundreds of holidays like that throughout the 80 years of Israel's existence, wherein you also had the skeleton crew and there was no incident. So we have to understand that it was normal, right? That there was a much lower level of alert. Maybe there shouldn't have been because of the 50-year anniversary. Yeah.
It's another issue. You're absolutely right. I think it is a high holiday, though, because the end of the holiday, it's even biblical. At the end of Tabernacles, the last day is a high holy day biblically as well. It's in the Bible, as well as it's rolling the scrolls back as well, called Simchat Torah. But it's also like a full holiday, a stopping of everything, a ceasing of everything. But what I was going to say is there was a move. I don't know how this started, but in the military over the years, there was a decrease of standing soldiers, of ready soldiers. Each soldier cost just free. It costs the taxpayer a lot of money to have someone who's trained, who knows how to use all the different weapons, who knows how to operate as a soldier. It takes a lot of training, even not for an elite unit, which costs a lot more, like me, but for regular soldiers, it costs also money. So somehow there's a move to stop the production of tanks. They said, we'll just use what we have, stop the production of transports, to minimalize the army down. There was a big move. Maybe they thought, well, look, you look at the budget and you're like, we're spending all this money. Do we really need to? I mean, maybe we don't really need to, because it's pretty much a time of peace. And Hamas isn't going to attack us full on. Hezbollah, well, if we do, then we'll get people. Let's maybe cut down on some spending. I mean, imagine if America did that. America spends more than the whole world combined. I think double what all the armies of the world combined. I believe it's double. I have to check that. But they spend more. They for sure spend more than the whole world's armies expenditures combined. So, but imagine America says, you know what? That's a lot of money. we need to save some money. Let's cut down and make the Army a little smaller, make the Navy a little smaller. We don't need 100 ships. Let's go with 10 ships. Still, we can do the job. So that kind of thing, again, I don't have the full military, what they call empirical research of the full on what happened, but there was a lulling to sleep of everything, not just those who are skeleton crew. I'm talking the whole entire system was way less. We were selling used, they were selling, what minister sold used Army thing. They said, we don't really need to have our warehouses full just in case there's a big war. What are the odds a big war is going to happen on that level? Let's just sell the older helmets and to South America. I don't remember, again, which I wasn't prepared for this question with all the data in front of me, but they sold off. I don't know if this minister made some money off this, but we're selling off the old uniforms, the older, it's just sitting there in the warehouse anyway. They need it to defend, you know?
So basically, it seems from what you're saying that the IDF had gotten somewhat complacent, that Hamas was a bug in the ass. We knew that Hezbollah was going to come someday, but, someday, someday. So there was a certain level of complacency. So 6:30 a.m. comes on October 7th. At what point did you know it was a war? At what point did you show up for service? Yeah. What happened when you showed up? How were you deployed? What did that day look like for you?
Yes. Yeah. So soldiers that were active duty. So now, again, reservists are supposed to be serving, which is usually, patrolling an area or doing some missions for 1 month a year. That's it. 1 month a year. That's 30 days a year or even less. And the rest of the time, you're at home like a normal citizen, doing your work, running your charity. I run the Aliyah Return Center charity, and so we're doing our normal life. And then for that month, out of the 12 months, you're called away to do your part and help. Okay, but then there's draft soldiers that are doing their 3 years of service or a little more sometimes, and those guys were right away got a message. I mean, at 6 o'clock a.m. they got the message. I didn't get it. At 6 o'clock a.m., they got it, and it says, "Hey, active duty soldiers, there's something going on here, and there's something going on here, and we need to deal with this." If it shuts off, just tell me. Active duty soldiers, we need to deal with this, and so a lot of them went there. They didn't have a gun yet. They didn't have anything ready yet. They just had whatever they had on them, and they went there right away. I kind of wish that I would have gone there with them. But some of them, they thought it was in the north. Some of them started reporting to the north, which it was, nothing was happening in the north yet. Which you think of, they should have actually attacked. If they wanted to beat us, they should have attacked from all sides. But when I see our time's running out, so I'm just going to summarize really quick because we're down to the last couple minutes. Then we got to end. Which is this, is that, they're already, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Shalom to you, Tang.
Okay, so I think that we have lost Chaim in the middle of a war. Everything is a little bit crazy, a little bit hard to hold on to. So I'm hoping that we can get him back. If not, I just want to, just reiterate how remarkable it is that there are people in Israel. I mean, Chaim he has a charity. Obviously he has a family, he has a life, he has his job, and despite all of this, I think he's back, but despite all of this,
yes,
he has your camera is off.
Sorry.
Decided to put that all aside in order to serve the country. So that day, what time did you report?
So let me just I'll just make it really short as I realize time is escaping us, is the draft soldiers were called up first. That was full on confusion. Some went to the north, some went to the south. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know where the threat was coming from. It wasn't properly reported at all. Despicable, disgusting, but that's what it was. And some showed up with a pistol only. Some showed up with no gun and were quickly killed. as they rushed to different areas. No one knew where to go. No one was there supplying, handing out helmets, nothing. No one was unlocking the main warehouses. In fact, in Nachalos, for example, the main warehouse, this is, again, a very big subject, so it'll take me way too long to go into the whole thing. The warehouse with all the guns in it in the Nachalos base was locked. No one knew who had the key, so they couldn't even get the guns out. Nobody was there to even get the guns out of the warehouse, okay? I was then only later on that day, I heard all the chatter, and I'm waiting by my phone. When are they gonna get to me? It wasn't until the evening. I feel bad about this, but again, I'm a reserve soldier, so they didn't call up all the reserves right away. They thought maybe they'd handle it with the regular soldiers. Only later that day did I get it. Says War Draft 6, Draft 8, Sav Shmone, Draft 8. I'm like, crap, it's real war. Now, I said I had the same experience. What's going on? I saw people were rushing around, but where is it? Is it in the north? Because we all thought Hezbollah is the biggest, baddest, most well-equipped soldiers. Do I need to rush to the north? No, it's in the south. Hamas? They attacked how many? Where? Is it what part of the fence? Did they come through one of the crossings? Zero information. And that's not our systems. It's not our protocol. We do have the protocol. We do have, but for some reason it all just messed up. And so finally when I got there, it was already night. And everything was crazy. No one knew, and I didn't have my gun on me. So they were lines and lines of people. I mean, by the time I got my gun even, hours had passed. I ended up getting on a refrigerator truck, to make a long story short, without even an armored anything, on a refrigerator truck. I pretty much commandeered me and this other guy and drove into the middle to find out what's going on with my eyes, just to see it. We just drove at top speed. Bombs were falling everywhere. And the whole sky was covered in missiles. And there were swarms of Hamas. Dead bodies on the ground. We're here with a gun that was somebody else's gun. It was absolute insanity, but I'm still here. And I'm almost glad. Let me just say this one last thing before we wrap up that question is I'm almost glad that I didn't come with full gear at 6 a.m. with all my team, because even that, as prepared as we were, let's say we were on a Humvee, even let's say we were on that, what it is we don't carry rocket launchers. They do. We rely on our Air Force. They don't. They rely on their skill of shooting RPGs, rocket propelled grenades. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so what would have happened is we would have gone driving over there with machine guns, and one RPG would have taken out each of our vehicles one by one. And there's nothing, unless we could see the guy shooting it, but they're in the woods. They're in the woods down there by Be'eri, by Nachal Oz, by Sufa, by Re'im, they're on behind every curve. They would have seen us before we see them. And we would have just been very brave rushing into it like some soldiers were. And from behind the tree, we would have all died. So we would have had to come up with a better emergency plan. I just think that Israel, even though there were some voices that were warning for this, to summarize, there were voices that did warn, some, but they were silenced and kind of discounted because they said, come on, stop fear-mongering. We're having a great time here. Why do you need us to spend more or to do more? Look, the people will handle what they handle. This is a very Jewish response to some of this. They're crazy. Hitler, he's crazy. He didn't eat enough potatoes. His art messed with his head. He's crazy. Don't worry about it. It'll pass. He's Hitler. He's crazy. We're like, no, that's a real threat, and you need to deal with this. I sometimes say this to Americans, and this is controversial. I say, you might want to consider looking at some Aliyah plans. You don't have to move here yet, but
No,
start
for
looking
sure.
into citizenship. Why not? Why not look into citizenship and I'll help you out. I'll move all of Brooklyn and get you identical houses like what you have in Brooklyn, just up here in the Galilee. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, if Raimondi wins the New York election, I think you're going to see a huge aliyah. Do you feel like the IDF has learned it, or Israel, but the IDF has learned its lesson so that this can never happen again?
Yes, absolutely, I do. And it says good times make weak people make hard times. That whole quote. because when you have easy times or not as much attacks on you, you kind of get lulled. So the fact is, we need to make sure that we're always on our toes. As soldiers, you got to be. I had a friend, very close friend of mine. I'm not going to say his name. He goes and he's there having a coffee with his friend, with an American senator. Okay, and then he suddenly hears something. He's down in the South and he's talking with a senator. He's like, things are bad here. I think he was a senator. Don't quote me on the senator part, but someone in the government of America. And he's like, things are pretty bad here. There are Hamas still that we don't know where they are. Hold on, I hear something. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. The senator's like, and he comes back. So where's my coffee? And then the senator's like, did it happen? What I think just happened? Now he's like, yeah, there was 3 terrorists. I took them all out. They would have killed all of us. I took them out before they got to us, and their bodies are over there. And but people aren't used to this. People aren't used to this. They don't have this in their mind in America anymore, because the battle isn't on their shores. It's over in Vietnam. It's over in Afghanistan. It's over in Iraq. It's over in the Korean Peninsula. So they're not used to it. But we don't have that privilege. We need to be that. They came into our houses, and guess what? Iran would love that if Hamas got all resupplied, rearmed, re-upped, and completed their genocidal goals. They would love that. But we're not going to let it happen.
Of course, we all know that Hamas has said in no uncertain terms that they wish to do it again. My question, I guess, now is, considering 6,000 people storming over a border and a completely ready IDF, what can that realistically be prevented? I'm thinking about like just simple things like London and New York, and there's so many rioting people in the streets that the police like cannot do anything about it. Would
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Ken. Sorry, say again your question. Sorry, one more time.
The question is that given that Hamas had said in no uncertain terms that they will do their best to commit this over and over again, and when you think about 6,000 people storming a border, let's say that IDF is ready and this will never happen again. Can that kind of attack with those kinds of numbers, particularly if Hezbollah gets involved in the north, even knowing that the IDF has had the chance now to prepare for contingencies, is that something that can be prevented or put down quickly?
Yes. Well, yes. Actually, I think it's now proven. I want to give a word of encouragement, is that I think it's proven now that although Israel did fall asleep at the wheel, I call it, and the car just careened into the ditch, which is unfortunate. And I remember seeing the Chinese media, the CCP, just laughing at us. They said, "Who is supposed to be the best intelligence in world? Mossad?" It hurt me. It hurt my just the laughter at us. They said I'm going to quote the CCP. They are like bucket full of holes. Need boy to kick them over. Israel gone. Israel gone. Little boy, kick this bucket full of holes over. I don't know what they meant. Maybe that's a saying in Chinese. And so, but my answer is we've learned our lesson, and look at how we've acted now. When you wake up, when the lion is rising, look at what the lion's roar looks like. This is Israel, a very small country, but it is a world power. I mean, we have full dominance of the skies, full aerial dominance over all of Iran, a country of 90 million people, gone through all their S-300s, S-400s, and taken out nuclear weapons. Even without the help of America, we would have done it. We did. We already did. They came and did the final touch. I'm not trying to belittle their help, but we did everything except the final touch. We did the heavy lifting, really. Well, they did the heavy lifting, no pun intended.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's a team. But we did the hard work, the hard, grueling work, and we've done that in Gaza and in Lebanon. I've done that. I've been part of that. And I'm saying Israel is the safest place to be. Everyone feels safe when they come here. I mean, girls are camping alone. They're hitchhiking alone. no weapons. And I say, they don't feel that safety, that tribal unity to go and dance without a guy that's watching over them or something. These girls are out dancing. And I say, that's something they don't do in Detroit. They don't do that in downtown Copenhagen. They don't do that. I mean, it's something very unique about this country. And I just think it's such a safe place. It's such a wonderful place. I'll just give an example. In Canada, a few years ago, there was a bus driving down the road, and an immigrant person, not trying to go against immigrants here, just an immigrant person came in and he just had a fight, pulls out a knife, and begins to cut someone's head off. Very graphic, I'm sorry. And all the Canadians on this Greyhound type bus, this public bus, were just like, uh-oh. Do you know what would happen in Israel? You'd have a grandma attacking with her purse. You'd have little everybody kicking everybody. It's such a jump in there society, and so it's such a jump in there society that we're just all united, and people have guns here.
Yeah.
Everybody's trained. Everybody's a soldier. Even the girls serve. You don't want to mess with these girls here in Israel. They will wipe you out. And this isn't a cliche. I mean, I welcomed the first ever girls to Yahalom to do certain roles, and maybe not the exact same as me in many ways, but they are absolutely impressing me. I can't tell you how well, because it was a little bit of a thing, because I was there from the beginning of the tunnel unit, and we're like, is it okay to welcome girls? What if one of them gets shot? Or, I understand when one of us gets shot, and is it the same, and won't it be, and what's going to happen, and can they do the heavy lifting, and what are we going to do? There are definitely biological differences, but they are they are amazing. I'm not exaggerating here. Amazing girls. Yeah. So they're making us look bad because they're so good.
Israel's is a very unique country in a million different ways. Well, we just crossed the hour mark and we didn't get into a lot of the stuff I want to get into. So, before we finish, let me just ask you the most important question. What does Am Yisrael Chai mean to you?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. I thought of it that on the surface level, the nation of Israel lives doesn't sound like such a profound thing. It doesn't on the surface. You think about it, you say the nation of Israel lives. Well, don't we all live? Don't even animals live? Aren't we all living on this planet? And what's your deal? It doesn't on the face, on the surface level sound like so profound. However, when you realize that there are forces in this world that chant day and night only for your death, they want you to be unalive, and that's their fantasy, their dream. When you say, "Hey, we're still here, Am Yisrael Chai, we're alive, and we're not gonna die," it's like you're saying in other words, so there, we're alive, so there. Why don't you put that in your sneakers? We're alive. I'm still here, Iran. Like, you see how it sounds when you think of it that way? Hey, Iran, I know you spent billions of dollars to obliterate me. Well, guess what? Am Yisrael is still Chai. We're still alive. Put that in your hijab. And then it's like, ooh, that's so meaningful. That's so powerful. What a statement. So that's what it means to me is it means to me that no power in the world, I don't care if it's the largest military on earth in the time of the Bible, it's called Pharaoh's army. I don't care if it's Russian army today. I don't care whatever army it is. Will not have the ability to destroy Israel. It won't work. It can't do, because we're protected by God. That sounds kind of weird, but it's not weird. It's to Ben-Gurion, he was an atheist, right? Or whatever. He says, in order to be a realist, you got to believe in miracles around here in Israel. In order to be a realist, you got to believe in miracles. And I do believe that this is one big miracle that I don't know any country that's had 700, is it 700 or more ballistic missiles shot at it in over a week. And we're like at the beach. I was swimming today at the beach, and we're just all full of joy. I don't know any other country like it. Yeah. So, hey, thank you so much for having me.
Am Yisrael Chai is in a way that no other country does. But I also want to say that Am Yisrael Chai goes way beyond Iran and its proxy, it goes all the way back to the Amalekites and the Egyptians, and every single nation that since the beginning of time have tried to destroy us. By the way, where are they? Every nation that has lived to destroy us is in the dustbin of history. Am Yisrael Chai is so much broader than this moment. So I just want to say also that we didn't get into, unfortunately, at all, what you do with the Aliyah Return Center. I have that link in the description. But one thing that people need to understand that is so important, and if you're thinking of Aliyah, definitely contact Chaim. And if you're not thinking of Aliyah, you better start thinking about it, because look what's happening in New York and London and Paris, Sydney. And what's ironic is that about 40,000 Jews have moved to Israel since October 7, 2023, because they feel safer in Israel in the middle of a war than they do in Paris. And it's dire, but it also gives Am Yisrael that tikva, that hope that we will one day all return to Am Yisrael.
Yeah, I would say that, democracies around the world, we Israel thought we had more friends in the UN, more friends in democracies around the world. We were shocked to see that people are being duped, are being deceived, really deceived. And every major Western capital in the world had a pro-Hamas, or at least pro-Palestine parade on October 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, in the beginning, in this time, a big parade, and people that were actually supporting that. And it's unthinkable in Western capitals around the world, but every Western capital pretty much had that. So I realize there's a real work to do to stand for what is right. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20.
Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20 says, "Woe unto those who call evil good, and who call darkness light. Woe unto them." It's a warning by prophet Isaiah. So I say you better read that in Isaiah 5, verse 20, because it means what it says. And people need to side with Israel. One way to stand with Israel and to help, even if they're not making Aliyah, they can support Aliyah. People can support. I don't care where they're from. They could be a Hindu dude, can support and donate right now. Go to Aliyah Return Center.com and can help make life here possible for those who come with nothing from the Ukrainian war, from Ethiopia, from many other Russia-Ukraine war, or Ethiopia and other places, and even places you wouldn't expect, like Brazil. And people say, "I just got this tattered shirt on." This is a story that happened. I got the tattered shirt. That's all I own. It's all I got. I made Aliyah. Here I am. Now we want to help make it easier. So where the government lacks in ability to absorb these people, we're going to step in the gap. And that's what we do. We stand in the gap. We help them. And that's what I do. And that's my passion. I'm very passionate about it because it's really in the Bible. It's 700 times in the Bible. Even Jewish people often can't quote some of these verses. I will gather you. I will bring you back. Proving to, how do you say, Katarlson's effort? No, Tucker. I almost said it wrong. It almost came out of profanity. Tucker Katarlson and Tucker Katarlson and Candace Owens and others got to know that the gathering of the Jewish people home is a proof that the Bible is true. And it's a proof that these are the same people. We're not other people being gathered. We are being gathered supernaturally. And it's a proof of the biblical history and heritage and legacy of this amazing small people. So you can help with that legacy. You can be part of supporting that by going to AliyahReturnCenter.com, and let's do it. We got a lot of work to do as anti-Semitism rises. We're building a building right now, by the way, 5-story building downtown by the Sea of Galilee. So
thank you so much. Listen, there's no way to thank you and the IDF enough for putting your own lives and livelihoods and families and everything on the line for our safety. I know I personally will be there for options for making my own Aliyah. But we all eventually need to be a part of Israel again.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to do in just a pioneering way, just to
Yeah.
be like here, just like the Oregon Trail. Got to
Yeah.
pioneer. You can't just wait for someone else to pioneer for us sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Am
Patricia,
Yisrael Chai.
love to get on again and talk more about more of the detail. I sort of breezed through some of those details, and there's a lot to
Yeah.
cover. The battles and the heroes. There's more and more stories coming out about heroes that really fought to the last bullet, to the last of their water, and then died. Lots of those kind of stories. But
I would love to have a story all about heroes. If you want to put together like a compilation of hero stories, let's do it. I'm 100% on board with that. You guys are all heroes. And I just want to say, honestly, you are all heroes, not just the people who do these unbelievable things, not just the people who lose limbs or lose their lives. Every single one of you is a hero. So thank you. Thank you for your service. And thank you for protecting me in Los Angeles and my freedom to be a Jew as part of Am Yisrael.
yeah, and as a final word, I just like to say, none of us want to be, none of us are warmongering, although that's kind of a thing that seems to get pushed out there. You don't want to be in Iran, bombing Iran. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be in Gaza. Nobody wants to be in Gaza. We want to be having fun, passing out challah bread at Shabbat dinner and dipping apples in honey on Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah. We don't want to be in Lebanon. We don't want to have to fight the Houthis. But sometimes freedom's not free. Sometimes you actually have to fight for what's yours. Sometimes things aren't just handed to you by somebody else. No, sometimes you have to stand in the gap, and that's what every soldier does, and that's really every citizen. So, hey, so much, and looking forward to the next one.
Thank you so much. Am Yisrael Chai, and until next time.
Am Yisrael Chai, for sure.